So here's the thing. Quicksilver was an amazing book that sets up such an incredible world. I cannot wait for the next one to come out. Before we get started, I want to say a quick hello and welcome all. This is Eclectic Kelpi, where we dive into the treasure trove of fantastical media, and if you want to escape to a world of brilliance and wonder and sentient medieval weaponry, then dash right into that subscribe button and join us on our journeys. Quick heads up, this will be a spoiler review, so if you haven't finished Quicksilver, I recommend not watching this video until after, because you absolutely deserve to experience that plot twist ending all for yourself. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the episode. Quicksilver is a fantastic epic fantasy adventure that has such incredible pacing and is very well balanced from having incredible action moments and also quiet processing moments. From the second that we are dropped into the world and we meet Cyrus having the altercation with that guard in Zilvarin, the plot is moving. I get the impression that there was a lot of thought and care put behind every scene, and that there's going to be a lot of foreshadowing coming that has already come to pass within Quicksilver itself, and also for future installments in the series. Everything feels very deliberate. The magic system is also very unique and exciting. It's very unique to itself, having this alchemic system where there's a exchange for being able to utilize magic. So, and it can be anything. It can be a deal. It can be blood. Obviously, is kind of the like most obvious one, but it's just so unique in this give and take. It's sort of a reciprocity, but also a collaborative type of magic, and I really like that component. The main characters were also so wonderfully written. I really like how Cyrus is a more developed adult protagonist at the age of 24, which is not really saying much, but a lot of other female protagonists in high fantasy books are like 19, early 20s. It is nice to see that she's kind of progressing along, and she does have such a more like realistic responsibility to her. She feels very organic and not over the top and more grounded, and her reactions feel more authentic. Carrion was a fun comedic foil to Cyrus. He's the lovable asshole. There's not much more to say about him. I enjoyed his presence there. He wasn't very annoying. He was just kind of like a fun, zany addition. Ren, Lane, and Lorith were fantastic at establishing the world and giving heart to this new environment that Cyrus was plopped into. So going into Yavelia, there was a lot of positive character interactions that created a space for her to get invested into the world. And I particularly like Lorith. I think that he gives a lot of like Liam from the Fourth Wing series vibes, and so I really appreciated that component, and the characters, were just really well done. And Kingfisher is the classic tortured, tormented, shadow powers, romantic interest with a secret backstory that will explain why he starts off with such a bad attitude and is awful to Cyrus at the beginning of the series. Fisher gets a lot more interesting later on in the book. I really appreciate that they played a lot with like his mental health components and just the dynamics of who he is as a person and like his story and experiences. So I like that the author played around with that later on. Now we're going to talk about my loves, dislikes, and wishes for this book. I loved the pacing and the action. It kept me captivated the whole way through. It was really enjoyable. There wasn't really a lot of like filler sections of this book. Like it was all very like purposeful and it felt well done. I also, again, loved the magic system. I thought that it was so fun and interesting to see the alchemy of having to like have deals and broker this equivalent exchange. It's giving Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood vibes. It was just really well done magic system, and I liked it a lot. I loved the language and descriptors of the worlds. It was very immersive, very like well described. I am such a fan of creating environments. That's why I love like Tolkien, Lord of the Rings so much, is because it's so world expansive, and so I really appreciated that. I felt like Hart did such a good job at creating this world and then putting us into it and having it feel very real. And also within that, every good fantasy book needs a map. So love that we have a map. Fantastic. So good. I wish that we had have gotten a map of Zilvarin, not just Yavelia. It would have been nice to kind of get where we were at the beginning of the book, and I'm sure we're going to be going back there in the sequel. But yeah, I really appreciated having this map. Love a good map. Every fantasy series needs a map. The other thing that I really appreciated for this was having the pronunciation guides. I'm a little bit dyslexic, and so like having these pronunciation guides is always really nice because it just helps a lot. Otherwise, well, I mean, anyways, in fantasy, we all know nobody knows how to say any of these words, but I appreciate that this author had our backs there. I love that Callie Hart wrote the Fae with traditional mythology rules, so the fact that they can't lie, it's really interesting to see because then it makes the dynamics and the conversations a lot more interesting, and so you can really pick apart what the characters are saying because there has to be some truth to it. Yes, of course, they can still be misleading, but they can't lie, so having those conversations is really interesting and plays a lot more with the character dynamics and the tactics that the characters are using within their interactions. I loved the gods and the fates being real. I loved that at the end of the book, Cyrus goes and like meets the god of chaos and is like talking to him, and I loved so much that the tree that was in the like plane that she went to was such a mirror for like Yggdrasil, because when Zareth like plucks one of the leaves off of the tree and then an entire world dies, it's just giving very like tree of life kind of energy, and I loved that. Taking in other mythologies and utilizing some of those components is really awesome. The plot twists. Obviously, like one of my friends had called it and was like, oh yeah, I already know that like Carrion's gonna be the like long lost heir and whatever, but like the end plot twist with the three siblings was crazy. I didn't catch that coming at all, in the slightest. Absolutely wild and very interesting, and the implications. I'm ready for more. I'm ready for the next book. I also love the ending. I'm going to talk a lot more about the ending when I get to my wishes, but I did really like the ending. I thought that it was really exciting and dramatic and well put together. And I liked the sections of the ending. So I liked the battle. I liked the going into the god worlds and like having that conversation. And I mean, the end was okay. This like fey vampire creature that Cyrus gets turned into, I mean, obviously like they needed to have her become a immortal in some capacity rather than just a human. I feel like it was pretty obvious. She got the like Feyre treatment, sort of, but yeah. I liked the ending as a whole in general. Very well done. So now for my dislikes. I really disliked Fisher until closer to the end when he started being nice. He was just so disrespectful, like just blatantly and deliberately and belligerently disrespectful. And maybe it's just me getting older, I just don't have patience for that. Like it was just so egregious. Like him walking away from Cyrus, like as she's trying to just like process being in the world, and I think that his excuse was flimsy and his like the justification that they tried to give for him was flimsy at best and just like awful. Like just legitimately being mean to her and walking in front of her and not waiting to catch up, like just expecting her to like follow him around, commanding her against her will, not using her name, like, you know, all of these things. Like the name thing does get explained at the end, but I still feel like, I don't know, like he just was so disrespectful, and I feel like it wasn't justifiable. And of course it's like one of those things where, oh, I had to make you hate me because otherwise like this horrible thing is gonna happen if we actually are like allowed to be in love and have a good day and whatever. And it's just stupid. It's very flimsy. It's all like, I don't know, he just wasn't a good love interest in my opinion at the beginning of the book, and I did really appreciate their dynamic once they started being good to each other, but just like you can't, it's stupid. I just don't like it. It's also the like, I know better than you and I'm gonna make these decisions that you are not like have like informed consent around and I know better and I'm gonna keep you safe. I don't even feel like they were like an enemies to lovers. I feel like it was more forced proximity because they were on the same side, they were doing the same thing, like they're trying to achieve the same goal, and I don't know. It was just not a good beginning. Their beginning was not good. Yeah, but I do appreciate their relationship now. So hopefully it'll stay good. Denya. Full stop. Why was she there? What was her purpose? Why did they put up with her bullshit? Who knows? What is the point of her? She was really annoying and awful. Like, I felt the same way with, like, Bryce from Crescent City, is I just can't get behind characters that are just purposefully belligerent and awful and unreasonable and dumb. Like, causing problems for the sake of causing problems and not contributing to having things go smoothly and contributing to the end goal of, like, getting the world back on track. And, like, why was she there? Throw her away. We don't need her. The other thing that I'm struggling with is, like, the stakes. So Quicksilver is not at all unique in this regard, but there's no stakes. Nobody died. Obviously, I don't want anybody to die, but I do want to feel like there is, like, world consequences for actions, and it just didn't feel like there was any stakes. Like, I didn't ever feel anxious or worried about these characters because it was very clear that they were going to be okay, and that's kind of not fun. Like, obviously I don't want anybody to die. I loved these characters for the most part. I loved almost all of them, and I want them to be happy and have good lives. But it just felt like there was no consequences for anybody's actions. I mean, even with Denya, like, her being told, hey, this sword isn't yours anymore, don't touch it, and she knows that magical swords are going to have consequences. She loses her hand because she touches the sword, and then they grow this hand back for her. Like, there is no consequences whatsoever. Everything is, like, put back into a, like, happy world state, and there's no response to actions that are lasting and meaningful. And I wish that there was consequences for actions that are lasting and meaningful. Yeah. Make it mean something, I guess. And then my wishes. I really only have two. So, one, I wish that they had have taken more time with the ending. I feel like there was so much happening, and I loved all of the things that were happening. I thought it was a very good conclusion to this first book, but I wish that there was, like, more time. So I think that there was a couple of things were really rushed and could have been paced better and let to breathe more in a way that would allow us to get the full scope of the impact. Again, stakes, like the impact on the world. So, like, Fisher's dynamic with Malcolm. Why is Malcolm in love with Fisher? That's so random, and I would love to know more about that. And that's basically my second wish, is that I want them to explain things better. Or I want the author to explain things better. I want there to be more space for us to get more insight into these things that she's delivering to us in this piece of literature. Explain, expand. I love the fast pace, but there needs to be, like, a little bit more room for processing and getting information. And I'm hoping that that's going to come in the rest of the series. So if this was a book just, like, setting up these questions, I hope that we get a lot more answers going forward in the next book. And then just, like, tropes that happened. Fated mates, lost heir to the throne, you touch her and you die, enemies to lovers, but I would more consider it forced proximity. Overall, I would give this a 4 out of 5 stars and a 3 little fires out of 5 for the spice level, because I think it was pretty good. It's I think one of the more explicit books that I've read, but I think that it was fine. Those, of course, were just my opinions and observations. I would love to hear what your thoughts about Quicksilver were in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for watching Everything with Love, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye!